All right, everybody. So now it is 3:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then there's still a few people who haven't joined yet. Actually, there's 13 people who haven't joined yet. But we'll just begin the class. And then actually, let's just wait for them for a little bit. And then we'll begin the class shortly once we got some people to join in. So we're just going to wait for about 1 more minute. All right, so we'll begin now. So everybody, welcome. My name is Boyuan, and then welcome back to Introduction to Backend Web Development with Python and JavaScript. This course is powered with in partnership with Alphademic Learning. So just a sentence about me. I'm Boyuan from California, United States. I'm a freshman at my local high school, which is Pleasant Grove High School, if you live in my region. So before I begin, I just want to post some survey response. So if you haven't filled out the survey, please do so as soon as possible. But here is of the 17 responses I collected before the Zoom meeting started. So you can see there is majority people do like programming, which I expect it's a programming course, but there's quite a few who said maybe, and then there's one person says no. So my goal is to change all these yellow, these orange, and the red to blue. So everybody hopefully everybody like programming. And then here's all your prior programming experience before. So HTML, CSS, which is this is as I mentioned in the syllabus, it's a prerequisite to this course. However, if you didn't take, there is a lot of free material, and our founder Daniel Zhang actually made a tutorial, and have another class that's specifically on front end web development. If you want to take a look like that, you can do so. I will put the link in the syllabus. You can check. And then 8 of you have JavaScript. That's going to be really helpful, as well as Python, because Python, JavaScript are the two specific languages we're going to focus on. We also have quite a few people knows Java and C++. So we have 5 people know C and C++. This is going to be pretty interesting, and then we'll go ahead and be able to see the difference with JavaScript and Python, and the difference between JavaScript and Python with Java and C++. And then there's 2 people who said no prior programming experience before, and there's 1 people who said I've done Java a little bit. All right, so that's great. You really want to know JavaScript? Well, great, because you're going to learn that in this course. All right, so let's see. Okay. So, does anybody want to introduce yourself to your fellow classmates for a quick icebreaker? If you want to, you can just feel free to unmute yourself. Or otherwise, we'll just ask a few questions to all of you. Does anyone want to introduce yourself to your fellow classmates? Nobody want to?
I can.
Yeah, sure.
My name is Edward, and I'm 11, and I learned Python and Java and HTML and a little bit of CSS and JavaScript, but I forgot most of HTML. I forgot most of CSS and JavaScript.
It's
also
fine.
Java.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's fine. If you don't have anything, if you forgot something about like HTML and CSS, because like you really just need to like know the minimum amount, and it will be covering some in this course as well. All right, thank you very much, Edward, for introducing yourself. Does anybody else want to introduce himself? Does anybody else want to introduce himself to your fellow classmates? No? All right. Well, then I will ask you a few questions to you guys. Since not all of you responded to the not all of you responded to like the survey. So first of all, how about this? First of all, does anybody want to like okay, raise your hand if you have Python experience before. Raise your Zoom's virtual hand. If you are unfamiliar with Zoom, you are in the bottom bar, there should be a button that says participant. If you click on it, there should be some button that look like raise your hand, like blue virtual hand. If you want to, please raise your hand. And then if you have prior Python experience before. I'm gonna wait for a few more people. All right, so I have 5 people know some about Python. Does anybody want to tell me how much do you know about Python?
I know like most of the data stuff and like a medium amount of web scraping.
Web scraping. All right, nice. Jake, I saw your hand raised up as well. Do you want to share what do you know about Python?
I know a little bit of Python, but not that much because I have more of an interest in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript.
Okay. All right. Good. How about you, Eric? What Python experience do you have?
I just have like basic Python experience, I guess.
Okay. How much do you know about Python? Could you be a little bit more specific?
I know like functions and that stuff.
Okay. Okay. Nice. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. All right. So another poll question I want to ask of you is: does anybody in here have C or C++ programming experience before? Raise your hand if you have C or C++ programming experience before. Nobody has any C's? Okay, I guess 5 people who fill out the survey says they have C or C++ programming experience are not here yet, but it's okay. So, so today what we'll do is we'll talk about Python, and then, oops. Let's see. All right, so today we're going to talk about Python. So a Python is a programming language. More specifically, it's a general purpose programming language. And the point of Python is there's like, let's see, there's 3 or 4 main purposes of Python. The first is AI/machine learning, so artificial intelligence and machine learning. Basically something like autonomous car, auto-driving car, stuff like that. And your GPS, Google Maps, they are all somehow related to AI, artificial intelligence. The second thing Python is good at is doing mathematical operation, computation, and data science. So how do you manipulate those data? How could you display the data and stuff like that? The third thing Python is good at is modern days web development, specifically the server side of it. And then there might be two popular frameworks that you guys heard of, called Flask and Django. If you haven't, don't worry. These are the two frameworks, and maybe the only two frameworks that existed yet. And then we'll cover them in this class about web development with Python. And finally, another thing it's good at is web scraping. So basically, what the web scraping is, as one of our fellow classmates mentioned, is it's basically how could you scrape the data, literally. So like get the data from a web page and use it. Though sometimes it's forbidden by some certain law and term of uses. So that's the main purpose of Python, but it's more like a general purpose. Does anybody know what language is Python written in?
C.
Yes, it is C. Great. So it is C, and then it turns out that some of you learned C, and then C is basically a low-level programming language. In a way that there's so many things that you have to do in C that you don't have to do in Python. So take a look at easier language or Python, but as a consequence for being quote unquote easier to understand, it's a much slower computation time since it doesn't use a compiler, which we're not going to talk about primarily in this course, but if you guys are interested, you guys can look up that. So what are you going to learn today? You're going to learn about variable types. You're also going to learn about input, output. You're also going to learn about conditional statements or if statements. Also loops, specifically for and while loops. We're also going to talk about data structures, and if I had time, we'd talk about class. Okay, and the final thing I want to ask of you, if you have this, a poll question, like a question. If you have prior competitive programming experience, please raise your hand. If you have prior competitive programming experience, no matter what language you use, please raise your hand. If I know how to raise your hand in Zoom, it's under the participant, and then you can participant. Oh, lots of people have prior competitive. Okay, you could like click on participant, and there should be an icon that says raise hand. All right. Okay. So some of you do know some competitive programming. If any of you want to say is what language you use for competitive programming?
Python.
Python? Okay. Does anybody use C or Java as competitive programming? Java, okay. Jake said C. Okay. All right. Well, okay, so that's all the question I got. For all of you, if you guys have any question during any time of the class, feel free to send me in a chat. If I'm not responding, just yell at me because sometimes it may not check chat often. And yeah, so thanks for enrolling in this class, coming in the journey with me, and then we will go ahead and begin. So first of all, you will ask, okay, where do I write my code? So does anybody have a local editor installed? That's another question I should ask, but I forgot. So does anybody have an editor, code editor installed on their computer? Visual Studio, okay. You mean Visual Studio, okay, kind of, okay. So to keep it a little bit more universal, what I would recommend you guys to do is go to this link in your browser. We're gonna use a service called GitPod. It's basically an online coding environment. You can go there by go to bit.ly/gitpod1, and it should show you a new screen where you can write your code, okay? And it should be something like this. Let me see. All right, so now what I want you to go to is in your browser, open a new tab, and then just type bit.ly /gitpod1. Okay, then I'm gonna share this screen instead. Okay. So just go here, bit.ly/getpod1. Okay. Thank you, Daniel who published in the chat. And then after you go there, you should see something like this, which is creating a new environment for you. And we'll just wait a sec. All right, so once it's ready, which I'm pretty sure should be.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I've never really used Gitpod, this thingy. So how do I like create an account?
Okay, that's a great question.
I mean, like, I can listen to the lesson first, and then you can help me at the end of the lesson.
No, you need to create an account. Actually, that's a great question. I actually forgot about that. Okay, so what I want you to do, did you see a button say like sign up or log in with GitHub?
No, it just says, hey there, are you ready to code? Gitpod launches ready to code dev environments for a GitHub or GitLab project with a single click, and it says login and launch workspace.
Okay, click on that, log in and launch workspace.
Okay. And it says login with GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket.
Okay, so I'm gonna assume some of you already have GitHub accounts, so just log in with GitHub. If you don't, it should say something like register somewhere. You click on login with GitHub.
Okay. It says sign in to GitHub to continue to Gitpod. I'll just put my email.
Oh, did you sign up? Did you create an account at GitHub before?
Not really. I don't think so.
Okay, then I mean you could register first.
Okay. Register.
Or did you see a register link or somewhere?
Not really. I can't really scroll. It just says login with GitHub, GitLab, and Bitbucket, and there's a blue login button at the top left, no, top right corner, and then there's workspace, docs, blogs, community.
Okay, could you raise your hand? I mean, no. Could you share your screen? Let's see if I can do it.
But I'm not sure if I'm able to.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, now it should be able to do it.
This is what it looks like.
All right, and if you finish, just raise your hand. Okay, click GitHub.
GitHub, okay.
Click on create an account. So everybody who don't have a GitHub account, please take a look right now. Create an account. Then just put your username, email, and password.
Okay, and then create an account.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to pause my share because I don't want to spread private information.
Okay. All right, does anybody else have any questions? And if you are done, which then you should see something like this. And then if you're done, please raise your hand. Otherwise, just unmute yourself and ask some question if you have any. All right, we got 1% done already. Thank you very much.
User.
All right, if you're finished, please raise your hand in Zoom so I know you are finished. All right, before we raise your hand, thank you very much. All right, so while you guys are doing this, I'm just going to talk about this class structure. So every day, every week, we'll have like weekly Zoom meeting for 9 weeks, which until November something, beginning of November. And then you will learn different topic. If you want to see detailed schedule, you can see on the syllabus. And then nearly each week, you will have an assignment to work on. Usually they're due at the beginning of the next class. And then if you have any questions at any time, just feel free to email me. I will respond as soon as possible. And then, yeah, just like email if you have questions regarding to any question you have. So to be honest, if you have prior program experience before, you will know Google is your best friend. If you see any syntactical error, just feel free to Google it. Or another more like technical term, Stack Overflow it. Yeah, and then I will grade your assignments manually because I don't really think, I mean, I can try to grade your machine, but sometimes the machine won't work well. And then I will grade based on like a certain scale, like mostly if it's correct, if the design is good, and if it's follow the certain style readability guides. So that's basically the structure. And then if you take a look, there should be an assignments posted already. Should be an assignments posted already in the Google Classroom called designing your own HTML CSS web page. And then that's due right in the next week. All right. So is there anybody created this GitHub page now? Is everybody seen this GitHub page? No? Okay, Jake. Jake, do you have any issues? You don't have any issues. Okay, so you just need more time. Okay. All right, I'm gonna give y'all a little bit more time. And then we actually have a Kahoot at the end of the class today. So for those of you who are interested, Kahoot. I think one person actually specifically told me that they want to have a Kahoot. So just made one. I will try to make one for each class. All right, Jake's done. Is anybody else need more time? Or does anybody else see something like this? Does everybody see something like this? All right, since nobody make any response, I'm gonna assume everybody can see this page. All right, so now I'm just gonna do a brief introduction with Gitpod. Again, this is an online coding environment, and you can feel free to lower your hands now. It's online coding environment, and then specifically, and then this is like the manage. If you don't see a terminal here, this is what we call a terminal. It's where you will compile, sort of, your code. To create a new terminal, you can just click on terminal. and then maybe you should show a pop-up, yeah, new terminal. And then if you want to create a new file, you can click on these 3 dots and then you can click on new file. Okay. And then in here, I'm just going to create the first Python file. All right. And then this, I'm just going to name it app.py. App.py. Okay. I'm just going to name it app.py. All right. So the first thing, and then actually we'll have a break since this is a 2-hour session. We'll have a break in 4:20 Pacific Standard Time to 4:30 Pacific Standard Time. Yes?
I still need help. It says please verify your email address. Before you can contribute on GitHub, we need you to verify your email address. An email containing verification instructions was sent to me, then it was my email.
All right, you can check. You should be able to see your email verification link in your email. So you could check your email.
Okay, Gmail.
All right. So now we'll talk about the first thing that you will learn from like most programming class is what we call a variable. It's a variable. So does anybody, since we have, most of you actually have some programming experience before. So does anybody want to explain what is a variable? What is a variable? Does anybody want to explain? Does anyone try to explain what is a variable? All right. So
A variable.
Yeah. Go ahead, Edward.
A variable is something that you can set to a certain value, like an integer variable can be set to like a number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and string variables will be.
Yeah, you. I think you just get caught up on the string variable part. You want to finish your sentence?
String variables are like text, and then a certain type of variable called a Boolean is either a true or false value. And then there's also a special type of variable called a list. No more of that I can
think of. Okay, great. So you actually talk about 2 parts. You actually talk about data types and variable. There's one more thing I want to add is in Python, you don't need to explicitly define a type of a variable. You don't have to explicitly define a type of a variable. This is the first thing I want you to know. The second is, since some of you have C experience, in C, I actually have coding a little bit C as well. So in C, when we want to attempt to like do something, you always need to malloc memory, malloc, and then later use it, and then free this memory at the end. You don't have to worry about that at all in Python. Okay, that's another reason why it's slow. You don't need to worry about that at all. Memory management, you don't have to worry about that at all. You don't need to worry about type at all as well. And then chart and int too. Yes, but again, Python's variable don't have any type. So technically, you don't need to specify like what type it is. Like in C, you might do something like int. Let's see, int C equals 50 equals 40. I mean, I can see that way. Equals 50. In Python, you don't need to use this. You just need to type C equals 50. All right, you just need to type C equals 50. And then what you can do is you can actually redefine it. You can redefine it to C equals a string, for example, hello. And if you don't have any prior programming experience, don't worry. I will explain what's happened in these 2 lines. But this is a variable. And then notice that I didn't explicitly define type, nor I did any malloc, alloc, or free memory. All right, so this is high-level overview. Let's take a look what's actually happening underneath the hood. And then I'm going to turn my autosave on as well. And the code I'm going to use will be available in the Google Classroom at the end. So if you didn't get time to copy it, don't worry about it. All right, so this is a variable. For example, we got something like this. If you want to define a variable, sort of, what you need to know is you need to know two things when you need to define a variable in Python. You need to know the variable name, and you need to know variable value. These are the two things that you need. And are public, private variable a thing in Python? I'm not sure what you're talking about. If you're talking about scope, yes.
I'm pretty sure those are in Java.
Okay. If you're talking about scope, then there is like you cannot use you cannot like use a very local variable that you define a function and use it in the global scope. You cannot do that. But there is not exactly like public private like in Java. I mean, this happened in class. Java is like really like happening in class, and then we'll talk about that, see if I have time today. All right, so again, back to our variable, which seems we go a little bit far, but go back to variable. Remember, we need to know two things when we define a variable. We need to know the variable name and the variable value. The variable name can be really arbitrary. You can create a name, basically. As long as you just begin with, I believe, as long as it begin with a letter or an underscore, it will work. And then acceptable character are UTF-8 or just English. English character, so standard English alphabet, that 26 letter, 10 numeral, 10 numbers, 10 digits, and then underscore. These are like a usable character. Sophia just asked, how do you add a project? I'm not sure what you mean by add a project. I'm not sure what do you mean by add a project.
So how do you like get to the screen you are on right now?
Oh,
like,
okay.
Right now I'm on my profile and I don't know how to do anything.
Okay. You just visit this link.
What link?
You know what? I'm just gonna type in the chat.
Ooh.
It's bit.ly/getpod1.
Yes, I typed that link in there, but like, it isn't doing anything really.
If you wait, it should show something like this. You probably need to wait.
Profile updated successfully. View your profile.
Okay. All right. Okay, could you share your screen really quick?
Okay, sure. I'm not very sure how to. It's like this. It says one contribution in the last year, and I don't want that.
Okay, could you just in your browser just type like bit.ly/getpod1?
Okay. bit.ly.
Yeah, it's the last link.
/getpod1. This one. Welcome.
Login, launch workspace.
Login and launch.
GitHub.
GitHub.
You still have unverified email. You still didn't authorize your email.
I see. Like I clicked verify email address, and then it sent me to this. It verifying your email.
Okay, could you show me your email that you received?
Into your Gmail or whatever email.
Could you like show the email?
Okay, but I have to see. This is
okay. Could you click on verify?
me, and it's almost done. This is my. verify. And I have to dispose it.
Could you click on verify email address?
Verify email address. Here we go.
In your Gmail, yeah.
And it says there was an error in verifying your email. Do I have to click on this then?
No, it should be the
Oh,
same.
see,
No, I mean,
button not working, blah, blah, blah.
yeah, let's try that. Yeah, see what does work. I'm so sorry. We should tell you guys to sign up earlier before this class. You can press enter, so you can take a look.
Oh, God. There was an error verifying your email. Again.
Again. Okay. Do you have Replit account?
I wonder why they sent me so many emails.
Do you have Replit account?
Yes, I do. In fact,
Okay.
I've used it before.
Okay.
Yes.
Could you just use?
I also
could you-
have a PyCharm account.
Okay. Could you just use Replit for now? All right, I'm sorry about that. So I guess there's something wrong with my internet, but I think it's all good now. Okay, so Sophie, could you just use the Replit account for whatever code I type? It's basically the same thing.
Okay, sure. I have that too.
All right, thank you very much. While we try to figure out that later. All right, sorry about that. Again, apologize. Back to our variable. Again, when you define a variable, you need to know the variable name and the variable value you want to define it to. For example, I could create a variable name called num. Okay, num. And then in here, what I will type is equal sign. Now mine is an equal sign. Then I could point it to a value. For example, in this case, num equals 50. Num equals 50. Okay. And so now we define a variable, and then we could define other types of variable as well. Another variable, as somebody mentioned, as Edward mentioned, is what we call a string. For now, you can just consider a string as text that is surrounded by quotation marks, okay? For example, I can create a variable called my name. And then I'm gonna say name equals to quotation mark. In this case, we're just gonna type my name. Type my name here. Okay. You could use double quote or single quote as long as it matches, as long as the closing matches, okay? So you cannot do something like this. This will give you a syntax error. You must do double quote and then using double quote to close the string, okay? All right. So does anybody have any questions so far? Does anybody have any questions so far? No? All right, so I'm gonna keep moving. So now let's go and run the program. Let's talk about how do we run the program. To run this, we're gonna use the terminal. And in terminal, gonna type this. We're gonna type Python, and then with your file name. In this case, it's app.py. In your terminal. Type this in your terminal. And in here, I can type Python app.py. Press return, and then our file get executed. Okay, you'll see, how do I know it? Well, because it didn't show you error, but it didn't print out anything as well because like we didn't set it. Okay, so speaking of printing stuff, now let's talk about output. How can we print stuff out to a user who's using our program? For example, so to print, what we'll use a magic. We'll use, well, it's not really magic. You will learn about how to create your own magic then. We'll use what we call a function called print. If you haven't heard of function, don't worry about it. you could just imagine it's a shortcut that allows you to do something, or a way that somebody else implements some code that you can just use. In this case, by default, Python have a function called print. Here what you can type is print with parenthesis. And in here, you can type a variable name, for example, that's we define, such as num. Excuse me. Okay. You could print out whatever you want, really. You could have print out whatever you want, as long as inside of this parenthesis, the expression is syntactically correct. All right. So now let's take a look. We will print out. If I run Python app.py, you will see, I'd say 50 here. And now, congratulations, you wrote your first printable Python program. Again, if you want to print out anything, use print function. You can create a variable in Python. You can use a variable name, know the value. You could just associate like variable name equals to value, and it could later print out the value as well. Okay. Does anybody have any questions so far?
Sorry, how did you submit the work?
How do I what?
How did you make the code wrong? How did you submit it?
Okay. So who am I speaking to? I can just know this.
This is Sabrina.
Okay. Okay. So so Sabrina, so basically, did you see a terminal here? This is what we call a terminal. And in here, you can just type Python space app.py, and then press enter or return, and then it should show number 50 here. This is how you run the program.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, does anybody else have any other questions? All right, well, if not, then we're gonna keep moving, okay? So now we talk about output or standard output. What we'll talk about now is we'll talk about inputs. By the way, if you see a hash mark and then with some code, some Python looking code or some text, it's what we call a comment. A comment is not gonna get run by the Python itself, but it's for human to read, to understand what I'm writing, basically. All right, so now let's take a look. Let's see, how can we do this? So now we're gonna talk about input. How can I get an input from a user, okay? So here is, now I'm gonna use another function, another magic. It's called input. Literally take an input, but instead of the parenthesis this time, instead of reference a variable, which you can technically, we'll put a string directly. We'll put a string directly. For now, it's just an empty string. You can just have opening and closing quotation marks. And in here, what we'll type is a prompt that's going to use ask a user. You will know what's a prompt in just a little bit. But in here, I'm just ask, enter your name here. All right, enter your name here. Then let's take a look how this program behaves. Notice now it's gonna give me a prompt. It said enter my name here. I notice that now I have a vertical white bar here where I can type my stuff. Now I can type my name. Press enter, and now the program's over. So now you can see we're able to take input from our terminal and into the Python script. This is standard input. All right. So does anybody have any questions so far? Does anybody have any questions so far? All right. If no, then we're gonna talk about how can we actually get the data that user submitted. It turns out the function can actually return us something. Okay. In this case, the input function is going to be able to return us the input that the user typed. In this case, my name. So now what I can logically do is I could set this as a value and then could give an arbitrary variable name. In this case, I'm just going to give a name as my variable name. And then instead of directly equal to a value, it's going to equal to a function. And the function going to have a value, okay? So you can imagine as we're taking this function going to give us a start by default, a string, and then we can use the string later, okay? All right, so you can enter your name here, and then once you use that, the user's input, which in this case Boyuan, will store in the name variable. And then here, I can just print out name. Or I can use something called string concatenation, basically add two strings together. So hello, this, and what's the exclamation mark at the end? Okay, so this string concatenation, and let's take a look how it works in action. Enter my name here, and then you can see it takes my input and it said hello Boyuan here. All right. So does anybody has any questions at all? Does anybody else have any questions?
I have to leave at 7:30 because I have a class at 7:30.
All right.
Is the recording available?
Yes, yes, it will be available at the YouTube channel. All right. Does anybody have any questions? All right. So I guess we'll go, since we still have a few 2 minutes before break, we'll take a look. We'll take a look on some basic arithmetic operation. So now I don't have to type anything per se. You can just look at me. I mean, not look at me, look at the screen. If my typing can actually work. All right. Now, take a look at my terminal. I'm going to type some math expression because you can imagine that Python itself can be actually used as a calculator as well. For example, what do you guys think this math expression equals to? If you cannot see, it's 1 plus 1. What do you guys think this math expression is equal to?
1 plus 1 is equal to 2.
All right, let's take a look. Indeed, it is equals to 2. All right, 1 plus 1 is 2. But here's a question. Here's a question. What about this number multiplied by this number? All right, what about like 743,892 multiplied by 438,000 or something, maybe 43, whatever. So like 6-digit number multiplied by 6-digit number. It's gonna be hard for us to human to calculate it, but to computer, it's just another math question. And then here is the response that is given to us. Okay? So you can imagine that we can use some basic arithmetic operation using Python. And then in the second part of this class, we'll learn how to build a command line little tiny project, basic calculator where you can input a simple math arithmetic expression, and it's gonna give you output. And then some basic symbol you can use is this is plus, this is minus, star symbol means multiply, this little like slash means divide, and two multiplication symbol added together means to the power. Okay, so these are some basic symbol. But for now, thanks for attending this class, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll be back in 10 minutes. All right. All right, so welcome back, everybody. And we'll go ahead and get back into this Python coding. Okay, so can everybody just say something so I know you guys are here? All right, great. Hope
Hi, I'm here.
Great. Hope everyone have a great break. If you guys don't think you want a break, you could just feel free to tell me now, or just email me or something. Well, excuse me. But anyway, I'm not sure can we do the Kahoot today actually, because maybe we can do the Kahoot next week if we cannot do it today. Okay, so now we're gonna build a simple calculator, comment line project. All right. Let's see. All right.
And this is
Yeah.
like I made a project, but I don't know how to do the quick setup. Like it says setup in desktop or AT. It says,
It is still.
should I set it up in desktop? I can share my screen if you want to.
Yeah. Just a sec. Yeah, I can share your screen. Again, take a look at that.
Can I set up in desktop like that?
No. I mean, no. You don't have to do this. You just need to. Okay. Oh yeah, you're using Replit. Yeah, don't worry about sending out this project. I mean, repository. You just type in the Replit. It's fine.
Okay, so I don't have to use this.
No, not as of now. Anyway, you will use this eventually.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. I'll stop my share.
All right. Great. Okay. Now what I want to, well, can you guys see my screen? Just to double check, because Zooms behave a little bit weird today. Yes, okay. All right, so now here's what we're going to do. We're going to use the input function, right? And then here's what we're going to do. In here, we're going to type enter a simple math expression here. So by here, I'm looking at just basically something like 1 + 1 or some basic arithmetic, not involving like solving algebra, so like with X, Y, and Z, stuff like that. All right, so expression. And then that what it's going to give us is, for example, it's going to give us 1 + 1. And now here's the interesting part. We're going to use another function. Use another function that is called eval. It's called eval, and eval stands for evaluate. It's basically going to enable us to run a Python code in a Python script. All right. So here we're just going to say eval exp, and then it's going to return a result. It's going to return a result. So I'm just going to store the result that it returned into the result variable. Okay. And then, so basically eval against doing is it's actually evaluate the code. They actually evaluate 1 + 1, and then it's going to return us number 2, because after it's evaluated, it's saying 1 + 1 is 2. All right. And then now what I can do is I can type this. I can type print. And then now it's like a string concatenation. I also want to talk about f string. F string. So you type F in front of a string, and it's basically going to enable you to embed Python expression within a string. Okay. And here I'm just going to say, and then you can use curly braces to type, to let the Python interpreter know that, okay, typing a Python expression here. So here I'm just going to reuse a variable, exp. I'm going to set it, I use another symbol, equals to result, basically. All right. So now if I try to run this again, Python app.py, enter your math expression here, 5 divided by 5. And you can see 5 divided by 5 is 1.0, or 1. Okay. Or I can try something different just to make sure it works. 2 to the power of 3. And then 2 to the power of 3 is 8. All right. So you could try, this is a little mini calculator just for some simple arithmetic handling. Okay. Does anybody have any questions so far? Does anybody else have? Does anybody have any question regarding to this simple command line environment? No question. Does everybody see this command line calculator works? Does it work for you guys? It works. Nice, nice. And then should be able to alpha some value. This is the first mini project that you're going to do. In fact, so many that I don't even want to count as a project, because you will have opportunity to create your own like a bit.ly URL shortener, and you even would have the chance to create your own version of Discord or live chatting web app. All right, so now let's go ahead and comment this line out. All right, so now I'm going to talk about how can we, now let's talk about some basic data structures in Python. So there are four main data structures that's special to Python, not like really special, but it's represented like this. Let's just type it. So it's called list. If does anybody actually here? Does anybody know different data types in Python? Want to talk about like any data types in Python? For example, list is a data type. Function is not a data type per se. Function is not a data type per se. Okay. Does everybody remember anything? For example, list is a data type. Okay. We got list. We also have what we call a tuple. Also have a dictionary. We have set. These are like main data types for Python. And let's take a look each of them one by one. To create, so what is a list? Does anybody heard of list before? List, if I know, aka it's called array. It's also called array. That's what list is. It's also called array. Okay, but does anybody know what is like? Does anybody want to talk about what it is exactly an array? Anybody heard of array before? Want to talk about what is an array? No, yeah?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
For some reason, on REPL, it only runs the main py. I have this other folder called first day that I want to like run. How do I run that?
Just click on run button. Don't worry about the file in REPL.
So I just press the button that says run.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work. It doesn't do the things I did in the first day folder.
Okay, could you share your screen really quick?
Okay. There. See, when I click run, it only says this. Are you supposed to refresh or what? It's booting my REPL up. Okay, and then I go to first day. How come in the main pie like these? There's like this red color. And in first day it isn't this red color.
Okay. Just give me a sec. I'll be back really quick. Okay, just give me 1 sec.
Sure.
All right. So okay. So here's the thing. You cannot create in Replit. You can only run main.py. Okay. You cannot run other files. So you need to go back to main.py and then basically move all your first day into the main.py. Okay. You could consider using comment to separate like each day. So like first day, second day. And another question is you are asking why this doesn't have what we call a syntax highlighting. It's because notice
You drew on my
you
screen.
have a .py, and then here you don't have a .py. For every Python file, you need to rename in a format such as something.py, and then it's gonna consider as a Python file.
Okay. Okay, someone has drawn on my screen.
Yeah, I draw on your screen.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically that's what it means.
Okay, can you like erase it?
Yeah.
I'm not really sure how to.
So like, do you know how to do it now? Yeah.
Shift up. Create C. Create C. Okay, so I'll just delete the first day folder. Just
Yeah.
delete this part. Then I'll do first day right here. Look. Okay. Sorry.
It's fine. It's fine. You could do yours here. All right. So back to our topic on array. Does anybody know what is an array? Again. Okay. What is an array? Array is a collection of values that is basically it is ordered. Let's see. I believe it's on order but indexed. Okay. Maybe it's order. Okay. It's basically indexed. And then by what we mean by index? Well, you could access an element in an array or in a list by index number. For example, here's how it looks like. Okay, I can create a new array by using square bracket, and then I could put some stuff in it, separate by comma. Okay, so each element separate by comma means different thing, and I'm just gonna name it as for example variable a. I'm gonna say variable a equals to a list called 1, 2, 3. Okay, all right. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Now I can try to print out this array. Now I can just say Python app.py, and then you can see the array prints out like 1, 2, 3. But you might ask, okay, how do I actually get an element in an array? Well, to do that, it's pretty simple. You can just use a square bracket notation. So here we'll just say bracket, put a square bracket, and in here you put an index number. And then index number always begin at 0. So this is the 0th element, this is 1's element, and this is 2's second element. Okay, 0, 1, 2. And now if we run this again, you will see we actually see 1 gets printed out. All right, so this is the basic of array. Again, array is basically a collection of values, and then you can use array to like store different elements that is unordered but indexed. That's mean by indexed. You can get it by index number. Okay. All right. Does anybody have any question on array for now? Does anybody have any question on array for now? Okay. Is everybody okay with the array? So you guys understand what this array is now? What is a list is?
Is there a reason why it starts from 0 instead of 1 for the index?
Okay, so It's okay. So it's like it's decided when the first program gets started. Computer always start at 0. It's always start counting at 0. There's no specific way. But there's no specific way to do it. But like to change it, but you just need to remember that for array or for basically anything related to like index, it always start at 0 and then 0, 1, 2. Okay. There's no specific reason, but I hope it helps.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. All right. Okay. So this is an array, and then now let me. So now we can go ahead and add an element to an array, and then here what we'll do is we'll do something like this. We'll type a, which is a variable name, and here we type a dot append. A dot append. Append is basically means append a new element to this given array. And here I can just say I want to append number 4. Okay. And let's take a look. Nothing happened. But if I try to print out the array that's later get appended, you can see I actually see the 4th element to it. Okay. I actually see the 4th element to it, which is number 4, respectively. Okay. All right. So so this is how we can add elements, and then to remove elements from an array, it's a little bit hard. It's a little bit hard, but what you can do is we can try to do this. We can take a look at pop. It's gonna work for me. Pop. Okay, just replace the whole thing. Let's see. Pop. And then now if you take a look, you can see get rid of the last element. You can see, wait, get rid of 2. Well, because 4 is not initially in it. And by default, pop gonna get rid of the last element. And I believe you can specify here in index number of which you want to get rid of. So you should be able to say something like this, and it's gonna get rid of like the first index number, which is 1 in this case. Okay. So this is how you can add, how to initialize array, remove using .pop to remove an element, .append to add elements. All right, adjust string. How do I do this? First of all, you need to rename your name to at least something. I don't want empty name. And then second, you can go to bit. Thank you very much. Second of all, you can go to bit.ly/getpod1. I'm gonna type the link into the chat. You're gonna go here bit.ly/getpod1, and then you can follow the direction. And if ask for your login, just choose login with GitHub. And if you don't have an account with GitHub, just like register an account. You understand what I'm talking about once you visit there. Right. Okay, so this is pop. So this is array. Does anybody else have any questions with array? Does anybody have any question with array?
No.
No? Okay. Now we're going to talk about, let's see. Okay. Now let's talk about tuple. Tuple is more like a thing that's only in Python, okay? Tuple is a thing that only in Python. And here is how it's look like. Here's how it look like. So you're just gonna construct another variable called b. And to construct a tuple, you will use a parenthesis. All right. Tuple is also indexed. Tuple is also indexed. And here we'll do something like this. 1, 2, 3. And now what I can do is I can print out b. So let's take a look how it looks like. What's just a little representation of this tuple. And then there's different similarities and differences. Similarities and differences between tuple and list. So a tuple is also indexed. That means you can get an element using index number. For example, 1. All right. Never run this again. Because it got number 2. Got number 2 here. And then what I can also do is I could just say 0. Again, remember, start at 0. So it's going to give us these zeros elements. And then something special about tuple is you cannot add or remove. In other case, tuple is not editable. Okay, it's only as is. Okay, it's not editable. All right, that's why you need to be like careful about tuple, because you cannot add nor remove elements from a tuple. Okay, so this is some basic about tuple. Each of these data types have a different usage as well. So I'm covering this topic pretty fast because I think most of you should know this already, unless there's some Python specific stuff like tuple and set. But I mean, at the end of the day, they are all like data type pretty same. And then I'm just gonna spend these 2 days. The next week is also gonna be some Python fundamentals, and we'll start to talk about like actual, like we'll talk about actual web development related on the 3rd week. But I try to talk a little bit faster. So if you don't understand, feel free to interrupt me, because I want you guys to be able to do the Kahoot, which cover a few topics actually. All right, now let's talk about dictionary. This is another common data type. Has anybody heard of dictionary Python before, or know what a dictionary is? Okay, well, it's fine. So dictionary, also known as hash table, or an object, or a dictionary. And then what is a dictionary then? Well, it's literally called dictionary because it's a key and value pair. So what's that mean? Well, let me construct a dictionary. Use curly braces to construct a dictionary. And here, I'm just gonna say something like this. Apple's color is red. Banana's color is yellow. And orange color is orange. All right. For example, this is a way to construct a dictionary. Notice we have 2 special symbols here. We have a colon and we have comma as well. Okay. So on the left-hand side of the colon is what we call a key. On the right-hand side is what we call a value. This is a key and value pair. And the colon basically linked everything together. So you can imagine something like this. Happen. So apple is linked to red. All right. Banana is linked to yellow. And orange is linked to orange. Okay, and these what we call linked. It's also kind of like a linked list, but not necessarily. But you can see you have an apple is linked to red, banana is linked to yellow, orange is linked to orange. But notice you cannot do it vice versa. Red is not linked to apple. Okay, red is not linked to apple. Only apple is linked to red. So let's take a look. So in this case, now what we'll do is we'll actually take a look. On something different. Okay. So instead of using index number to get the element, what we'll do now is we'll use the key to get an element. For example, in here I'm just gonna say C bracket, and in here we're just gonna say apple. So basically it means we want to get the value of a key and value pair where key is apple, which in this case, apple is red. Now if you run this again, Python app.py, you can see we got color red. Same, we can run banana to get banana, which is yellow. and they can run orange to get orange. Orange to get orange. Notice the orange can get orange is only because this orange is the same thing as this orange. It still means this link to here. Doesn't mean this link to here. Okay? So, for example, if you try to get a key using value, for example, you want to do something like this, it's going to tell you error. Notice it's going to give you key error because it doesn't find a specific key. All right? Okay. So does anybody have any question at all with dictionary? Python, how do you quickly? So you select everything, type Command K, Command C. If you're using MacBook, I'm not sure to do that on Windows. So, and then does Python allow duplicated key? Python doesn't. Okay. So you mean what if we have a duplicated key in Python in here? Well, let's take a look and try it out. Actually, that's a great question. I hope somebody will ask this. Well, let's try it out. So I say something like apple, and then in this case, I'm just gonna say blue. I never saw blue apple before, but who knows? Run this. Actually, let me change to apple. And then now if you run this, you can see it's blue. So it's gonna get you the latest elements. Okay, so it's gonna soon get overwritten. Does allow duplicated key in dictionary, in tuple, in list, except for one data type. That's what we're going to talk about now, which is called set. But before I talk about that, does anybody have any questions with dictionary? Okay, so and just one more thing, it turns out that if you want to like set an element, so if you want to like change a key to a value, for example, apple is not blue nor red, you want to change apple equals to gold, for example. In here, what you can do is you can type C, square bracket. So first you want to get the key, you want to set equals to gold. Okay, so this way it's going to rewritten this whole this key and value here from apple to blue to apple to gold. All right. Okay. Does anybody have any question with dictionary? No. All right. Well, one last data type that we're gonna cover today is what we call a set. And to construct a set, we're gonna use a specific set function. And here's how it's look like. Okay. Let's see. Can we do this? All right. Let's see. We're gonna do something special with sets. We're gonna do something like this. Inside of set, I'm just gonna put a list. All right. Can anybody tell me something that you noticed in this list? Can you tell me something that you noticed from this list?
Yeah, the mode is 1.
Okay, nice. Okay, well, it's not because 2 also occurred twice as well. Yeah, but okay, notice that we actually have some duplicated elements here. Duplicated elements. But what if you only want for some reason, you only want non-duplicated. So you only want elements appear once. Here's where you're using set. And let's take a look what the output is. Now, if you take a look, notice that instead of 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 7, it's changed to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. Notice it's also automatically sorted. It's also automatically sorted, as far as I believe. It's automatically sorted. And then if we, let's see, it's sorted. Yeah, it's sorted. And then notice that it just changed every duplicated element, if there is any, to 1. Okay. I mean, not to 1, just appear once. Okay. So that's what I mean by set. Basically, change all the duplicated value just to let it appear once only. Okay. So this is something about set. All right, so does anybody have any questions on some of the data type we learned? Notice that I didn't talk about all the properties specifically because we're going to talk about how to use them in specific scenario. The opportunity to use, I believe, at least 2 of these data types when we're doing the real world application. All right. So does anybody have any question with these 4 data type? Or list, tuple, dictionary, and set. Does anybody have any questions? Does anybody have any question at all? All right. Well, if no question, we're going to cover final 3 thing. Let's see. Did I talk about? Okay. How about this? Do you guys want to do the Kahoot I created? Do you guys want to do a Kahoot? Yes, sure. Okay. Then here is the deal. I'm not going to cover loop today because we're going to talk about loop tomorrow, next week. I'm just going to talk about functions and if statements, or if we have time. So for last 15 minutes, we're going to do a Kahoot, which we still have 15 minutes of like actual teaching time. All right, so let's take a look. How to do it? I'm going to cover something called function, which is, if you recall, now this is a print function. This is an input function here. So now let's take a look. How can we actually create our own functions? So does anybody know how to create a function in Python? Does everybody know how to create functions in Python? Well, you create a function in Python by first typing this keyword called def, or define. And then this is called the def, and it basically means you want to define a function. And then here a type of function name. For example, in here, I'm just going to create a function called hello world. This is my function name. All right. So function naming convention follows the variable naming convention Python. And then at the end, you will add a parenthesis. And here you will type colon. And let's see, type colon here. All right. So, and then make sure you're going to go ahead tab once. And here's something like this: def hello world parenthesis colon, and next line is indented once. Okay, indented once. And then in here, here's what I'm going to do. We're just going to type some code here. And the point for using a function is you can imagine you're putting something into a box. And then, well, that's kind of like a variable, but like you can put something into a function and you can reuse function anywhere else, basically. Okay. So for example, def hello world print something. And then here, I'm just going to print out hello. And then my name. So for now, I'm going to create a variable called my name. And then let's just say name. And then going to equals my name. And here I'm just say print name. All right. Print out name. Def means define. Yeah. So that's how you create a function in Python. All right. And then now if we run this, you guys will see nothing happen because we had to call a function to let it work. Here I can just call this function that we made. hello underscore world. And if we run this, now you can see, we see my my sentence here. Hello, Boyuan. All right. And then hello underscore world here as well. Because like we need to like run this function first so we can see the content of it. All right. So does anybody have any questions so far with functions? All right. So other thing I want to talk about with function really quick is it. So now we're going to talk about what's happened in the parenthesis. Why do you need to write a parenthesis after it? In here, it's basically what we mean by parenthesis. It's basically what we call argument or parameters. It's basically you can pass in something. So basically, probably want to. So let's see in a scenario like this. Instead of just hard code my name to Boyuan, I probably want to say hello to their user's name. So what I can do now is instead of saying Boyuan here, I will just add argument to the parenthesis name, which means that okay, whenever you use this function, you must provide a name variable. You must, not a variable, you must provide a name, which most likely is going to be a string. What is the username that's going to greet? All right. For example, I'm just going to choose a random person from my Zoom participant, Alvin. All right. Hello world, Alvin. And then notice that now what's going to happen is this Alvin string going to turn into a variable argument name. And then now I can just use his name here. All right. And then now if I run this, you can see now I see hello Alvin instead of say hello Boyuan, which is hard-coded my name. All right. And then one more thing we'll talk about is maybe we don't want to print out directly. Maybe we want to, maybe later what we want to do is make it a little bit more complicated, but not print out the name directly. And then we want to print the name for ourselves, for example. So not directly inside of a function. And now what we call is we can do a return value. And in here, what we can simply do is we can return name, which is really arbitrarily useless because we're going to put a name here and they don't want us to do anything. But now, here let's take a look. Actually, before we talk about return, let's take a look of what is different between a function have a return and without a return. So notice now a function without return going to return a value called none. Okay, it's going to return a value called none. But then if I have a function with a return statement, so here I can just say return, so I can return some value back. That's we can use it. Just like input function return the user's prompt, like the actual answer, user's input. Here I'm just gonna say return name. And then if I run this again, you can see it said Alvin. All right, there's Alvin here. Okay. And then here is like different way. Again, here's how to construct the function, type some code in the function, call the function, put some arguments, and then maybe do a return. All right. Okay. Does anybody have any questions so far? Does anybody have any questions so far? Anybody any questions? No? All right. All right. So now one more thing I want to talk about is what we call a conditional statements. Have anybody heard of conditional statements? Or anybody want to explain what is a conditional statements?
I know what conditional statements are.
You know? Do you want to explain?
So they're basically like, for example, if it is raining, we will not go to the park today. And then you can also do an else if. In Python, they call it an elif. Elif, Elif, like cloudy, stay home. And then you can also do else, go outside.
Okay, great job. That's actually a pretty decent example. So if we take a look, here's a structure of if statements, okay? There's 3 parts to an if statement. Not necessarily have to have all these 3 parts. But we take a look. First, you need a condition. And what is condition? It's basically going to give you a true and false value. For example, I can use double equal sign to express this comparison. Single equal sign make variable assignments. For example, if 5 equals 5, in here what I want to do is print out 5 is 5. Otherwise, if 6 equals 6, for example, I'm just going to print out 6 is 6. Otherwise, if none of these statements are true, I can say print out none of the statements above are true. All right. So let's take a look each. 5 is 5 equals to 5. This is a question that you are able to answer using true and false. 5 is 5 is either yes, 5 is 5, or no, 5 is not 5. Okay, there's really only 2 responses to it. There's no like maybe 5 is 5, but maybe not really. That is like not. But condition must make sure that it has like conditions. Like it must go ahead return your true and false. 6 equals 6 is also a condition. All right. So if and elif always going to need you to provide a condition. How the order is executed is basically top to the bottom. It's going to first run the if statement. For example, is if 5 equals to 5, then it's just going to say print 5 is 5 and over. But then otherwise, if the first if statement is not true, it's going to looking for an elif. An elif. If the first elif is not true, it's going to check second elif if there is one. You can add if and an elif between if and optionally else. And then finally, you can have else statements, which basically said if all of the above conditions not true, do this instead. And in this case, you're going to say none of the above are true. Okay. So now if I try to run this, which I expect to see 5 is 5, because indeed 5 is equals to 5. It is a true response. All right. So something that you need to remember is you must have if, elif and else must come under if, else must come under elif or if, elif must be between if and else if we have an else, and else must be the final thing if you want to have an else. Okay, so that's something that you need to remember. You cannot write something, you can't write something like this. So like you start with an elif, if, and then you say else. You could do that, but then you immediately say elif. That's not gonna work. Okay, just so you guys to know. This is the basic order.
Oh, yeah, and you can use the keywords and or, right?
You could. In fact, there is, since we talked about that, we could use something like this. We could use something like this. We could say like 1 is 1. I'm not sure why it's asking me for more input. Okay, for example, I also can do something like this. If 1 is 1, print out 1. Okay, well, I guess we're just gonna use here. We could use or and or were instead of condition to like just check. Your multiple conditions you want to check at once, you could do that as well. One interesting thing is this. I want to show it to you guys. Let's see. Oh, shoot. Okay. For example, you can see something like this. Sorry for my screen, it's a little bit messy. For example, let's run this again. All right. It is a literal. Don't worry about that warning for now. So if is 1 is 1. So is, you can also think is same thing as equals equals. But here is an interesting thing, if I remember how it's used. Num1, so let's say A equals 1, B equals 1. Is A is B. So A is B, is that correct or not? Is it correct or not? So is 1 is 1? Well, it's no. It's true. Maybe that's not how it works, or maybe I forgot again. Let's see. Let's see how. See. Let's see. There is one thing that I think is really interesting that I want to show you guys. If you can just give me a sec. Is Python sec. I'm gonna search something up. Okay, so let's see. Okay, well, I guess I will show that in later. I think I have something like this where one is not one. I want to show you guys, but I think I forgot how it works again. Well, I'm gonna see if I can remember how it works, and then I will show you guys in next video actually. I'll show you guys in not next video, next class to show you guys something really interesting about comparison using is. But for now, we're gonna do a Kahoot. Okay, gonna do a Kahoot. That's going to basically covers everything we did today. And let's see. All right. All right, I'm gonna show, okay. All right, so I'm gonna share my screen now. The screen of the Kahoot screen. And then, okay, let's do classic. All right, so we're gonna do a Kahoot. And then if I'm familiar with Kahoot, it's basically like you can choose different options and to see if you get a question correct or not. All right, can you guys see the screen? All right, if you guys want, you can join this Kahoot. You can go to kahoot.it, or if you have Kahoot app installed, you can type the code 425-7250. There we go, we got the first person join. Doesn't have the funky music. There we go. Not sure, can you guys hear the music? If everyone can join the Kahoot, that would be great, because then I know when to start. If you don't want to join the Kahoot, just let me know.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
I can't see my name on the Kahoot, even though it says I'm logged in. My PIN is 425. Okay, now I'm on.
Okay.
Let's get a delay.
No problem. If you guys want to join the Kahoot, feel free to join the Kahoot. Is that everybody we want to join? If you want to join the Kahoot, please send a message in the chat so I know I'm gonna wait for you. Otherwise, it's gonna begin in something like this. All right, gonna get started in 10 more seconds. All right, 3, 2, 1. Let's go ahead and get started. What is Python? What is Python? Python is a web-specific programming language written in C. Python is a general programming language written in C. Python is an AI-specific programming language libraries such as TensorFlow, or Python is a snake. If anybody chooses snake, it would be so. Okay, great. So most people get it correct. In fact, it is a general purpose programming language, right? Written in C. It's not that domain specific. It's not web, not stuff. And I think I could give a award to somebody, maybe who completed, who is the winner of the Kahoot. I'm not sure. What do you think about that? So, motivate you guys. What is not a type in Python? Which of the following is not a type? This question is tricky. I don't think I covered this. I partially kind of covered this. Partially I covered this. It is 4. It's just really tricky. Int and float are all a type. Int, an integer, float is decimal number. But a number is not a type because we have like int and float specified here. So it's not a type. But congratulations to 4 people who answered correctly. That means my question is not that hard. Next. All right. Let's see. All right, nice. Daniel's first, Sophie comes in, Dalen. Does Python has type? Does Python has type? Well, I forget this question wrong, I'm really gonna be angry because does Python has type? No, does Python have type? Python have type. We literally answered that a question ago. Python have type. Okay. You don't need to explicitly define them, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. Dylan's on fire. Nice. Streak of 3. Sophie takes over now. Let's see. Quiz. What is the correct keyword for defining function in Python? We just talked about that. Func, def, or function. All right, great. Everybody got it correct. We got def. Def is how you define a function. Nothing more to say. Yay, Sophie, great. You have 4 streak. Nice. Daniel Hu and Jonathan, Dylan, and H. It's gonna be the winner. What's the difference between list and tuple? This is extremely tricky. Okay. So okay. So I think it's kind of like my fault because I don't think I covered this exactly. But Yeah, the problem is really tricky. The problem is really tricky. List is ordered and it's changeable. Tuple is ordered as well, but it's unchangeable. So all ordered, but one's changeable is unchangeable. And then most people choose this because maybe unordered. I mean, I understand that messed up. Probably because like, yes. Let's see. Tuple is immutable. Does list have order? Wait. No, no. I don't think tuple is mutable. Python, yeah, you cannot change it. Pretty sure you cannot change it. Now, isn't list log, and I mean, you need to take a look at specific algorithm for defining space-time complexity. You cannot just grab a data type and say, okay, this. You need to like in specific scenario. List is changeable and ordered. Tuple is ordered and unchangeable. Pretty sure tuple, unless I get the question wrong. All right, well, let's take a look. 6th question. Look at the code and what will get printed. Take your best guess. Take your best guess on this. Take your best guess on this. You need to have some prior program experience to know the answer. I don't think I covered that as well.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
I got here late because I didn't notice the time change. So
Oh,
did I miss anything important?
Well, I mean, technically miss the entire class, but don't worry, the meeting is recorded, and I will share the recording, basically. But for now, we're playing a Kahoot. If you guys want to join, you can join at the kahoot.it pin code 4257250.
Okay.
Right. Very should be fine. You should know some of these, most of these.
Okay.
Meme lagged so much that like the whole question was timed out before I even got a chance to answer it.
Oh, that's really laggy. Okay, I will try to read the question. Okay. All right, let's go on to the next question. Let's see. Oh, Dalen's catching up. I'm gonna get word something to people who win the Kahoot most out of these 9 weeks. Look at the code. What will get printed? This is the easy question. Okay, you should miss this one. Nobody should miss this one. Some people still answered 1. Let's take a look at this. Come on. And some people answered green. Okay, number 1 is obviously, okay, why did some people answer number 4? I don't get it, but it is 2 because index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. All right, let's see who's winning. Dalen's on the streak right now. Let's see. Number 8. What is f string in Python? There's a tricky question here. Yellow is correct. I believe some people are going to choose red. Yes, indeed. One is embed mathematical expression, one's embed Python expression. Notice I could use variable in f string as well. Do need to necessarily add math. But Python expression, I mean, you could think Python expression is also part of mathematical expression. But mainly we use f string for Python, especially embed variable and stuff like that. All right, let's see who's up right now. Sophie's getting back up. Great job to all of you. Great job. Number 9 is a true and false. Would the following code get an error when run? Dictionary equals to apple is red. Banana is, let's see. I'm not sure if you guys see the image. You get an error. Yes, you would get an error because notice that we don't have red as a key. As I recall, as I told you guys that you can't, it's only single linked. Apple is linked to red, banana is linked to yellow, but red is not linked to apple. So it will give you a key error. All right. Nice. Let's see who got the most point. Sophie, Sophie, and Dylan and Daniel's coming right up. All right. One more final question. See if you guys can get it correct. Double points. How to remove? Oh shoot. Okay. Yeah. How to remove last element from a tuple? Not such a stupid question to ask. That's not a stupid question to ask. Somebody still says something like that? There's no way. You just did a question that said there's no way you can remove tuple is unchangeable. You just did that question. So there's no way. All right. Time for mystery.
I didn't know the answer because like I kind of missed half the class.
Oh, really? Okay, well, Daniel, congratulations. You got 6 out of 10. 6882. Who is our final winner? Congratulations, Sophie. You are our final winner. Great job. Great job to all of you for getting these questions correct. All right. Okay, so nice. Okay, well, let's see. What's the question? Most difficult question. I mean, this is okay. All right, I guess we'll recover this in tomorrow as well. So thanks for attending the Kahoot. Does anybody? So again, there's a homework assignment in the classroom. If you want to do it, it's basically designing your own website in HTML and CSS. If you have any question, feel free to email me. But until then, thanks for attending this class and see you next week. Bye-bye.